Oh, hello, everyone. This is Joe Glines, and we're conducting these interviews to help people get a better idea and concept of what you can use AutoHotkey for and people that use it, right, in their backgrounds. So I'm Joe Glines. I'm not a programmer, right, and I don't pretend to be one. Today I'm talking with Chad. He's the author of AutoHotkey Studio, which is an amazing IDE for editing AutoHotkey code in I was a long-time site user, and it took me a while to switch over. But now that I did, I'm so thankful that I did, and it's an amazing tool. Chad, you want to introduce yourself a little?
Hi, I'm Chad Wilson. Pretty much introduced.
Yeah, you're in Ohio. I know that. I'm trying to think of
Canton, yeah, it's
Canton. Yeah.
right down the street from the Hall of Fame, the Pro Football Hall of Fame.
Cool. And I don't remember. I'm sure you've told me this, but I don't recall. How long have you been programming with AutoHotkey?
Started around 2005.
Cool.
So,
do you remember how you ended up using it? Like what brought you to it?
Oddly enough, a online game called RuneScape. I was just trying to level up proficiencies in magic and whatnot, and it got to the point where it was so much repetitive stress on my hands and wrists and everything. It was just causing a lot of pain, so I was looking for a way to automate part of it. I'd sit and watch it, but just to alleviate some of the stress and pressure on my hands.
I'm curious because I was talking with Jean earlier, for quick access pop-up, and I was talking to him about, on his site, he has a lot of stuff about its quick access pop-up folders, but that's not what people search for. Like you just mentioned, you were alleviating repetitive clicks type things.
Sure.
Because it's one of those things, like I try to best explain what it was for someone who doesn't know AutoHotkey at all. Like, how would you explain what AutoHotkey is?
To me, it's pretty much the way I interface with about 60% of my computer. God, what is AutoHotkey to me? Data storage, data manipulation, web scraping. It's an easy way to interface with Windows on an API level, actually.
Yeah.
Silly little projects, some larger than others. Image viewers, image sorting, basic file renaming and moving and organization. God, just so many different things that I can't even remember right now.
And how about this? Have you ever had a time where you ran into something that you couldn't, at least to some degree, automate it with AutoHotkey?
There are times, but I just eventually realize, it's really not worth dealing with, and I just kind of move on. It's not often, though, and 99% of the time, AutoHotkey is more than enough to do what I need it to do.
I agree, and here, and correct me if I'm wrong, Chad. You don't consider yourself a programmer, or do you?
No.
I mean, yeah, and he says that, but trust me, compared to where I am, you are so far advanced. But even then, it's like you do amazing stuff, and yet you still don't have a background in getting education in programming or what's it called, computer science.
Not a stitch.
Yeah, but you do some really advanced things, and yet which Chad and I we've worked over the last couple of years on a lot of different small projects here and there, some bigger ones, and almost every time, not every time, but close to it, I'll say, here's what I'm trying to do, and then he'll rewrite what I did, and I can look at his code and I can understand what he did, yet I never would have written that from scratch, right? But it's one of those little things of like having that strategic knowledge and experience and understanding how to use objects and classes. And I'm okay with functions, but Yeah, it always blows me away. That and your use of GUIs, I'd say between your use of GUIs and your XML class that you wrote, it's insane how fast you can get stuff done. It is
It's
insane.
just, repetition.
Yeah. So what this is the other thing, like to me, if for those of you who haven't, let me share, let me bring Studio over here. It doesn't quote unquote look like much, on the screen itself, because one is I've trimmed down some things, but the functionality you have built into it is amazing. Let alone just I know just from understanding from when you rewrote your class on these the dialog boxes and or GUIs and things, and the math and all the stuff you're doing here, to me was just wow. But what made you even first decide, like, I'm gonna try to create an editor?
Well, started scripting way back in the day on Notepad, and didn't really have the sense to go to the internet and find something better. I was just like, oh, this doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
And I thought, well, why not make my own? And so I started writing it in Notepad. And once it got to a point where I could actually, save documents and do other things, and then Studio just kind of wrote itself. Well, I wrote Studio in itself. So
Right. Yeah, I get it. Yeah. And obviously we're not going to get into all the bells and whistles of Studio, but boy, if you're doing any, and for the most part, it's, it's written in AutoHotkey for AutoHotkey. He's starting to bring in some of the other IntelliSense for some other languages, but for the most part, it's really an AutoHotkey thing. Is that accurate?
Oh, that's very accurate.
But man, I just can't stress enough, like, because I was a big site user and I still occasionally use it, but I used it for, I guess, I don't know, around 8 years. And I hammered, and I'm a pretty advanced user in site, and virtually everything where I said, well, how do you do this? How do you do this? And Chad showed me there were a couple where he's like, oh, I don't have that built in. And like in an hour, you had incorporated it.
Right.
You're like, oh, that the underlying, the one for me, of the word, and actually you took it to another level, because here, if we have holder twice, before it didn't highlight because there were no more than one copy of it. But now that there's more than one, it highlights both. But I love that if it's only once, I guess I got to go off of it. Now it doesn't get highlighted, which is still it's so intuitive to help you understand that, like, hey, that's actually the wrong word, right? I typed it, but it's not highlighted yet. I thought I used it as a variable somewhere else.
Right.
That and the functions, being able to see where you are in the parameters is those are two enormously simple, but wow, they really help you code.
Yeah, it just takes a lot of the guesswork and a lot of the going back and forth to the documentation to just try to figure out what in the world you're supposed to be doing.
Which the other thing, it's funny because, and I knew this, functions, just to keep it concise, are better moved outside of your script for, one is development and also just readability of your code. But with site, it's a manual process, and you incorporate it to make it so easy to break the function out or to suck them back in and pack them when you want to share it with other people.
Right.
And I don't think one would be, if you didn't have both of those things, it wouldn't nearly be as good. But the fact it's so easy to pull functions out and then to bring them back in when you want to share it with people who you just got to give them one file, or post to the forum or something, it's like, wow, that is awesome.
Yeah, I wanted to make it as easy as possible for the user to just throw their mind onto the screen and put as little barrier between them and the finished product, so that it's just, number one, it's more efficient. Number two, you just don't have to think. Just use all of that thought for whatever you're doing, and not syntax and highlighting.
Right. Right. I need to re-indent this because now it nested a level. Yeah, have it take care of it for you. Yeah. The other really big thing that I know you shake off the compliments, but so when I've mentioned before, I learned Python for a couple years, and I'd go to Python meetups, and there's about 60 people there on average, and the people I would talk to, actually, it was interesting. A lot of them had heard of AutoHotkey and used it, but I was also trying to incorporate a lot of GUI stuff.
Ah,
The vast majority of them, I would ask for help with using, I forget what it's called, TK something in Python. But the vast majority are like, oh, I don't do GUIs. GUIs are totally different. And I thought, because I had tried GUIs and AutoHotkey, and I thought that was the one thing AutoHotkey didn't do well because it was really, for me, it was very confusing. And then I realized
not really
it's,
that good, to be honest.
well, but I think it boils down to, though, GUIs compared, they're just different, right?
Sure.
How you pop into them, how they can, you got to watch for an event anywhere, and how they update. It was just like, it wasn't AutoHotkey's fault necessarily. It was just GUIs are just different in how you program around them and your thought process.
Right.
But that's what, getting back to you, I've seen you build GUIs in minutes. And wow, I mean, one is, clearly know AutoHotkey really well, but you make intuitive GUIs, right? A lot of people will lay stuff out, and it's just like, I don't know what they were thinking, but they're not intuitive. And just kudos to you, because I think you have a really good grasp of what should be, a list view versus a tree view versus a checkbox or group buttons or an edit field or the combo box. I mean, there's so many different ways when you're trying to do it, that you could design it, and you do a great job.
I appreciate it.
Quickly, yeah. So let's talk a little bit more. So about, I don't know how, I know you get questions from people about Studio, but let's stick with either that or about even programming, because I come to you all the time for help with stuff. But what when people start using AutoHotkey, like, what do you think that it's how do I phrase this? Someone new to AutoHotkey, what should they learn first?
The difference between the assigning variables with colon equals and equals.
Yeah.
That's a big one. And figuring out, okay, well, if I use a colon equals, then everything else to the right of that is going to be an expression, not a literal. Learn to use objects, please, dear God. Learn to use them. They will do nothing but save you time.
Honestly, I would, a year and a half ago, before we were talking a lot, I would have been like, well, I can see how they're kind of helpful, but and even then I started learning them, but it was more about watching how you approach things. And I never would have thought, actually, one super simple one, I forget what I was doing, but I needed to dedupe a list. I think it was of email addresses, and you're like, put it in an object, right? Put your email address the key. And I'm like, oh my God, it's so obvious, yet it never popped in my head of how easy an object would take care of that kind of a thing.
Right.
Yeah, I agree. Objects, now that I've learned a little bit more about how to nest them also, which you helped me understand, first you got to set the original one and give it a value, and then depending, of course, how you're going to structure it. But it's just little quirks. It takes a little bit of practice, but boy, once you do, it's the other one I would say is like, it was the pre and post learning how functions work. And I would create all these crazy GoSebs, right? Because I didn't realize I could just pass a parameter to the same thing and just change that, functionality a little bit.
Right.
That was a huge one for me.
Yeah, functions, learn to use them because they will be your best friend. Functions, objects, and making sure you know your variables and how to create them, how to destroy them, how not to reuse them, which I'm bad at.
Yeah. I've been on the end of that a few too many times, not realizing I had reused a certain variable name, and took me a while to track down what was going on.
Oh, sure.
What do you? Well, so how about someone who let's say you go over to a family's house, and there are some people there who ask you what you do, like with AutoHotkey, so a completely new person, right, that isn't at all aware of AutoHotkey and what it is, how would you describe it to them?
AutoHotkey, let's see. It's basically a layer between the user and Windows. It's a wrapper basically for C or C#, I believe, and it's just anything you need to do, anything you want to do with a computer, it'll help you do it.
Yeah. No, and you know what? And actually, that I think it's a very good point, because when I was learning Python and a couple other languages I looked at, it took me a while to replicate what I was doing on AutoHotkey in those languages. I could do it, but it took me a while, and the biggest reason was because AutoHotkey really can connect with that Windows API super easily.
Oh, sure.
It's a big strength, and then again, that's the other but wonderful thing is there's so many things built into Windows that you don't need to create them all from scratch, right? You're leveraging that Windows they exist in Windows, and you're just using an API to talk to Windows to have Windows create it for you.
Right.
Yeah. Cool.
Yeah, like the XML wrapper, the sockets for communication.
Yeah.
Oh, Lord, the Internet Explorer.
Yeah, with COM and...
Yeah, all the COM objects that are available.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but aren't most of the GUI stuff as well actual Windows, like the checklists, or sorry, list views?
Everything that AutoHotkey leverages is a standard control. It's part of the standard library of controls. So yeah, that's all interfacing with the API level, taking care of 99% of everything that each control provides.
And just to take a step back for people who are wondering what in the world an API is, so it's just an application programming interface. It's just meaning there's a way programmatically that you can connect to the other program, interact with it.
Right. It's just basically the interface, which is in the name. It's the easy way to basically deal with low-level items in Windows.
And I wish, it's just funny because I did a webinar on API web services, but it's that those are really, that was more on web services with data providers out there that you connect with and submit queries to their database, right? But typically, like in corporate world, they'll say an API, and that's what they're referring to.
Right.
But it really is such a catch-all phrase. It has a lot of different...
Well, sure. It's just like, Kleenex is the brand name, but there's tissues of all different brands, size and shape.
For different things, right, yeah.
Right. It's just the catch-all term, basically.
Yeah. What, do you have any thoughts on people who they download Studio, or they're just starting, to do something, and then they, why do people give up? Right, that they don't actually they make an effort, but they don't keep at it.
A lot of what I hear is, oh, I can't make it look a certain way, or it doesn't look like X or Y or whatever. And it's just like, to me, it's always been function over form. It's been my credo since the beginning of time.
Yeah.
So some people just can't get over that. Some people just don't understand. And it's mostly to my detriment or my fault that I don't convey things. It's just one of those things where it's like, in my head, everything makes perfect sense. But, nobody sees inside my head, and what I see isn't always the most clear and concise way to do something. So it's just, miscommunication, and, I've got no one to blame for that but myself.
No, well, I the other one though, I mean, with you and I, you have my 5,000% trust, right? Where it's so I never worry about it because I know you know what you're doing, right?
Sure.
But for a new person, I could see how they don't know that how good you are, and so they don't have that level of trust, and so maybe it is. I don't know how to get around it other than showing them examples of other things and just say, just let me power through it, and then you'll see in the end that it works out.
It's just the level of willingness on the end user's part to learn, and then also to seek out information from me, or just a lot of people won't even get in there and start clicking around to see what does what or anything like that. Or
I think you hit on a lot of things there. There's the fear of I'm going to break something, or I don't know what I'm doing. I'm not even going to touch it.
Right.
There's was me for the first like 2 years. Well, I actually it was longer because at first the first several years I used AutoHotkey for hot strings and hotkeys, and I was content, and they helped a lot. But then I started learning web scraping, and I read it all from the forum, reading stuff, and holy cow, it was hard learning, right? Because I was learning COM as well as object-oriented programming and the DOM, and it was steep learning. But my point is, I went like quite a while before I actually would post a question to the forum, which was stupid, right? I mean, granted, don't get me wrong. I think people should wait before they post a question to the forum, right? Do your Googling and make sure there's, the question hasn't already been answered somewhere else. And then when you do post it, make sure it's an intelligent question, with the examples clear, and especially if you can give them stuff you already started and access to the page, right? I mean, the AutoHotkey forum is an amazing source where people are so helpful, but often people ask really crappy questions. What was that phrase I heard? It was a short question requires a really, really long answer, and a long question requires a short answer.
Most of the time, yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just learning to use the resources available. Google is your friend. The forums are even better friend. Stack Overflow is wonderful.
Yeah.
Even if it's not, written, the solution is not written in AutoHotkey, you can get an idea for if they used an API for a certain thing or whatever they did.
Yep.
And you can pull so much valuable information from just that.
Well, and I would add on to that, if it's like a Windows Office program, when you find results written in VBA, adjusting them to AutoHotkey is really usually easy.
Yeah, it's not quite one-to-one, but it's awfully close.
Yeah. How about this one? I'm curious your thoughts on why don't because I vented on it from years working in corporate world, is why don't bosses emphasize more about getting their employees to either learn how to code or hire someone or whatever, right, to actually automate their job? What do you think the hesitation is there? Any idea?
Some people do. It's just the majority of people, they rose up in the ranks in their job. They were in the mailroom, made it into the programming room, started doing what it is they do. And they get into a rigid structure of how the job is to be done. And anyone that tells them anything different is wrong. And that, to me, 99 times out of 100 is what it is. It's just their unwillingness to be fluid.
Or I'll add on that, I think you'll agree with this, or their lack of even realizing that there would be a way, an easy way to automate it.
Oh, absolutely. If they knew that these things existed, they would be like, we got to do that.
Yeah. All right, so let's switch over and let's just talk about some of the things that I know that you use, that you've written for yourself, right? Like one of them, the recent one that I know I saw a little bit of, was you built your own Windows Explorer. Is that a good explanation?
It's just basically the Explorer in Windows just drove me nuts for the longest time, because whenever you go into a directory, you can't, with your keyboard, easily select the first item unless you hit the down arrow and the up arrow, and that just drove me absolutely buggy. So rather than try to get used to it or deal with it, because say you've got apples and apricots and you want APR, so say you want apples, you'd have to hit A twice to get, because the first time you hit A, it would go to apricots.
Yeah.
Just something that drove me absolutely insane. Yeah, I could pick up a mouse, but my hands are on the keyboard, use it.
Mm-hmm.
So I just decided, well, I can make a list view that shows the contents of the directories and basically design my own setup to where I can just type and get to a folder or whatever. And then once I get there, I have it set up so where all you have to do is hit Alt-E and it opens up the Explorer in that particular folder with whatever file I had last selected. You could hit Enter within mine to launch with the default program and all of that other stuff.
Oh, okay.
But
I thought you built in a little bit of deleting or moving or anything. No? Is that?
a little bit of deleting, just standard deleting. Moving, I don't know that I got that far with it yet.
Okay. Yep. And then how about, let's just talk at a high level, the your image sorter one. Was it sorter? Oh yeah, where you were going through, I guess, and you could pick and choose very quickly of keep or save and move.
Right, yeah, just basically a grid of images. Normally kept it simple, like 3 by 3, but I believe you can, it's scaled to, you could have 100 images on the screen if you wanted to, and it would show much smaller, of course.
Mm-hmm.
But you could then create a link to a folder on your hard drive. So say you have pictures of flowers. So then within there, you've got roses, tulips, daisies, yada, yada, yada. You could just quickly go through, once you've created those associations with those folders, then quickly just tag each photo with the folder you wanted to move it to. And then once you've got it all tagged, you just hit a couple buttons, moves them over, and then brings up the next page or the next list of images, and repeat the process.
And then one that's sort of related to that was something to do with the was it the Google image? You could search for an image and
just interface with the Google image search. It just drove me nuts that if I wanted to have a list of images or whatever that I'm looking for, similar images or better quality or different size or whatever, it's just basically, it uses the Internet Explorer in the background to basically go to Google Images and do all of the searching and report back all of the findings and everything. Then I used my grid or my image grid to display all the results, and then I could just pick and choose which ones I wanted to download and just download them.
And then I think if I correct me if I'm wrong, you could tell it to get a bigger one of this size or something like that.
Right. You could once you get the image on the screen, you can hit enter, and it would go and get a list of all the duplicates, which I would rearrange in order of largest to smallest. Just I always like the largest image. That way, if you need to crop or resize or whatever, it's usually the best. Every once in a while, you run into an image that somebody just blows up, and then it just looks terrible. And then you find one that's 800 by 600 that's just clear as a bell. So we'll just use that. But it's nice to just quickly be able to go through and just see what all different sizes and everything that are available, and then just choose the one that best suits your needs.
Yep. And then I was going to say, let's I'm sharing my screen, right?
I see you, so I have no idea.
Oh, screen share. I'm not. Darn it. Desktop. That's the right one there. There we go. So you can see that now?
I can.
Good. Okay. So this is Chad. This is our folder that I share across. We've done stuff that's not in this, but this is a lot of what we have worked on together. I was going to say, just at a high level, so the Advanced Online, that was my friend in the local company who they remember they were printing out they use Internet Explorer to open their web page, and they print, and they go to the next one and print.
Yeah, that was a mess.
Yeah. So that was where we go through and basically automate the process, convert it into a PDF for them, and then they can just print the PDF.
Right.
Alliance Geo, that's where we did some work for them, a couple different projects for them. But most of it was around the certification, and that's where I don't want to open it because it has
personal.
But it helps track both their employees and their equipment, and shows who has training in what type of certification. Can easily filter when you start typing, and I think you made it even a fuzzy match on the typing.
Yeah, partial fuzzy matching on it.
Yeah, which is awesome. But that's one of those things, if it's not built into the tool, this is why I love AutoHotkey, is when you actually build it yourself, you have total control of how you want it to work. I think this was where this might have been leftover from when you helped me fix my Udemy course.
Right. Yeah, I was ripping audio out of MP4s, and then you can do whatever you need to do.
We applied that filter to drop out the hum, that low hum.
Right.
Clearbit, actually, this one we should, I think, hopefully this is the right version. We can launch it, which is a decent demonstration of some you just using some simple GUIs, right? But it's Clearbit's an API tool. So, by the way, this is a web service API where our program's running here, but we can put in that we wanted to, let's say, company. Oh, that's already got the results. Domain lookup results. Somewhere in here, I can do a search. I thought it was that one.
I believe it was. That's where you search. The company discoveries where you search for companies within areas of, like you can search by domains or description. I'm trying to think.
I might have to reset. Oh, here's domain. Here we go. Okay, so good.
So get rid of the domain, and then you can work on your descriptions.
Well, actually, I'd rather let's leave it there if this will run. So 2 businesses, and then
look up companies at the bottom.
So now when I click this, it's going to take those domains and pull back. So there's only 2. This will run, and it's going to pull back data about those companies.
Right, and I think it just adds it to the bottom of the list. So
yeah, okay. But here's some of the data we just extracted. But you submitted a query to their database, Clearbit's database, and said, "Give me back companies that have this domain," and it pulled back the information about them.
Right.
But it's a good example of just this is a list view over here. Is that right?
No, that's a tree view.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
No, I'm so sorry. That is a list view.
Okay. Because the trees are like you can expand them, right? Yeah. Anyway, I don't want to get too caught up in this, but it was just a good example of how GUIs often look if you build them with the generic Windows API.
Sure.
The contact database. Oh, this was just we were testing the speed of your XML class against that big file I had.
Oh yeah.
That was Firebase. So I paid to have a app created in Android, and it does stuff based on Google Maps, and so we needed a way to extract the data, and so Firebase is what the app dumps it into. It's from Google, and this we built a query which will programmatically go extract data that's in our database. Under Google. This was, and actually that's why Firebase is also listed there. I'm not sure which is the most recent, but there are a lot of Google APIs, and these are all just examples of how to connect to them. The Google Translate one we used just recently, I saw that one down below. I think we still have that one. We can demonstrate if we want.
Yeah, that one was pretty fun.
The insurance one, this is where we got hired to extract data from insurance estimations of cost, and so that was Chad loved that one. No, I'm kidding. It was a lot of work, but programmatically went through and basically said, okay, well, how much would it cost? How would insurance cost if I was a male non-smoker and 71? How about if I was a male smoker and 71? And how much, and so we extracted the data. This is just a link to my library. An example, because I have a ton in my library. I have a lot of different files in my library, and Chad doesn't have any or not much.
I think I have 4.
Yeah, and so, which are probably yours, right? Ones that you wrote.
Yeah, I believe so.
Yeah. But anyway, so when we're doing stuff in studio, and I'm having, every once in a while, I'm having some quirks and stuff, and part of it's just this way he can replicate the scenario on his side.
Right.
And then we did quite a while ago, we did a bunch of stuff on LinkedIn of connecting to people and automating, writing them and looking at their profiles. Actually, I don't know what's workspaces.
Oh, my workspaces.
Is that like the desktop type thing where it saves?
Yeah, just organize where everything's supposed to pop up.
Mailgun, we wrote a couple in here that are Mailgun is a service kind of like MailChimp, where you can email in bulk. And so we can send plain text or HTML emails in bulk, have tracking on it, and send out full campaigns. And it's a great, your first 10,000 emails per month are free. And so we wrote an interface to interact with their API to make it easy for me to schedule a campaign and target people. Which actually, it's similar to Message Master. The difference with Message Master is I think we were tying in the what was the new texting one? Text Magic.
Oh yeah, Text Magic, and yeah, it never got finished though.
No, yeah, that's right. And then Name Gen, that was a fun one where we can programmatically create names based on words. So it'll go through, and there's way too many in here. I don't want to run it because I can tell just by looking at it, it's going to give us a lot. Let me put none here. Let's skip the languages. It actually connects to Google Translate, so it'll look up the words in other languages. It can incorporate prefixes and suffixes, and and you can look up thesaurus of words if you want. Let's see what it'll do. What it should do. 81 iterations, great. So it took those, combined them. It broke them out by syllable. That's right. Right. Yeah, and then parses them together. Now there's a lot more than what's listed here. You can see it's just go down to C. Oh, and deduped them as well.
Right.
But anyway, it's another graphical thing for helping come up with names of products. I don't remember us. Maybe this was just an example with. This is the one. I don't know if it's done, but I can do an example of it here. I should be able to. So I have a screen clipping tool, which I can go like this. Now, if I highlight this and hit, I think it's Control T. It might be Windows T. Oh, and look at that. It didn't actually get the. Maybe it was it too small? Let me bring over something a little bit bigger. I don't think so. Let's do this, and then I'll try it again. So see the text here?
Right.
It used OCR on my image and grabbed it. If I had done the bigger spot, you'd see it even better. But it performs OCR on my screen capture. So that's what that was. I think that's the actual Office install. Yeah. Outlook, we wrote a really cool one to iterate over all of your inboxes. Well, actually, you can pick and choose. If I didn't have, I haven't ran this thing in like a lifetime. Let's see what it'll do. Oh, I don't have Outlook open. But this is good enough. Now, here's a tree view, right?
Yeah, that's a tree view, sorry.
And granted, I'd have to go update this because I haven't run it in forever and things have really changed. But you can pick and choose, and if you choose at a high level, wasn't it somewhere in here you can select? I thought it would select. Would that select everything beneath it? I don't remember.
I don't recall to be.
Yeah, it's been a while. Oh, there we go. So maybe it's just at the high level. I can pick and choose which accounts I want it to iterate over. But then it would go through every email in that folder and subfolders, or you can uncheck them or whatever. Right. But it will go and get the email address of who it was sent to, who it was sent from, and the date, and if there was an attachment and the size of the attachment. And it helps build an actual address book based on like your volume, and how often you're sending emails, and it records the last time you sent an email or received one from them. So for salespeople, I think it's a great way to make sure you're keeping in contact with all of your customers. Proofy.io, that's another API where it'll verify that the email address is valid. So before you try to send to it, that way you don't get flagged as spam. Purger, I actually looked at this one a minute ago because I'm like, what the hell was that? I had a list I had created, but they wanted to remove certain people from the list, certain email addresses. And so it allows me to say, hey, where's my initial file? Where's the one that has email addresses that I want to remove? And it automates going through, pulling out the second group of emails from the first one and saves a new file without them in it.
That's fun.
Yeah. Pushbullet is like Mighty Text, except for it's a lot cheaper, and it works through your phone, and it's automating texting. And actually other stuff, too. You can move files around and do other things with it. But we automated
the clipboard sharing is part of it.
Yes, it is, because that's one I still use. I love it. I can be on my computer, copy something to the clipboard, and when I paste on my phone, it pastes what's on my computer clipboard.
Yeah, that's real handy.
It really is when you're, especially when you get a new phone or you're logging in somewhere. I'm like, oh man, I hate typing out passwords and email addresses on my phone.
Oh yeah.
This random code generator, that was one that was pretty cool. Is you can run it and say how many codes do you want? All right, I want 5,000. How long? Let's say 6 characters. And bam! Now these are all on my clipboard, but it just generated alphanumeric, uppercase, lowercase. What did I say? 5,000.
Yeah.
Of them. So it's a super easy way to get exactly how many unique ones you want.
Sure.
The remesh, that had to do with using Google Translate for translating what people had typed in. The Sappy, that was the one you helped where Gabe was on the call and live. I kept trying to get my friend to start using objects more and to work with Chad some. And I'm like, hey, let's use this as an example. So on the call, we were talking through like, hey, there's probably an object for it. And sure enough, there was. And in no time, he let me see if this will run.
Should run.
Yeah. Voices. Apparently I have these voices installed.
Yeah.
Create voice file.
I think you have to tell it what you want it to say. Fantastic.
Yeah,
Hello,
that's
world.
How
are you?
Well, it did work.
Yeah.
Close it, but yeah, it would have saved that as an MP3 file was the overall plan.
Right. Yeah.
I guess this was just like my site documentation. I don't remember what this was. Maybe just examples of using send message. I don't know. Obviously, something very simple.
Send message. Start and that's weird. What the heck? It basically creates a little GUI and it has "Hello there, how are you" in it, and it sends the message to select a certain.
Oh, yeah.
So hit F1 and it'll select from. Oh, it tells you what you've had selected. Yeah.
How many characters?
Yeah. So if you change the selection to just select you or something,
yeah.
And hit F1, it tells you where it starts.
Okay. Wow. And yeah, interesting. No, I don't remember that one at all.
Yeah, I don't even know why we made it, to be honest.
Oh. What was the date on it? It wasn't. No,
it wasn't that long ago.
A year ago. Yeah, a year and a half ago. Roughly.
Honestly, don't remember why.
Yeah, there's a ton of stuff in Survey Gizmo, which we're not getting into, but we are connecting to their API and extracting data, both surveys and data, and it's going to be amazingly helpful. That's one we're going to hopefully sell. Survey Monkey, I think I actually was looking. They have an API and can do stuff, but we didn't play with it yet. Table Explorer, this was a fun one you made. I don't know if it'll run, but this was a table from work, and our queries at work took a really long time to run. And so what I did was I would extract flat text files, and then each of these are different flat text files that I can query. And I was always basically, I could choose what column I wanted to query, and then I could type in my query, and it would filter and show me. And then if I highlighted them, I could enter, I guess maybe double click. Oh, and see them added here in the status bar. And that one is saying it's already in there. Oh, it's still DLP. Here we go. EPD. But let me see if I change this to something else. It'll be a little more. Let me.
The return column, the second drop down has the.
Oh.
Yeah, that's.
Oh, I see. I changed. Okay, thank you. This is the search column. This is the return column. That's right. What I should have been changing. Gotcha. But let's just see, add selected values. So anyway, they're adding this column here, and then when you're done, copy to clipboard. It'll put it into a format that's for an in-list query for SQL. So it really sped up what I was doing, because otherwise I had to execute a query, wait a few minutes for it to come back, and then I would have to take the results and either handwrite them out, or save them as a text file and then go back and parse it and all. And so this made things lightning fast. Text Magic we alluded to. The difference with Text Magic between that and Push Bullet is Text Magic, you actually get your own phone number, and it has an app that you can use on your phone and see in and out of everything. But it's pretty amazing.
Lists and everything else, which is really...
It's just not cheap. But yeah, it's the functionality is pretty awesome. Turo, we did some web scraping off of the Turo site, which is a car rental type thing. There's another one for validating email addresses, I think. There's several in those. I don't know why we have this was just a quick web scraping project we had for somebody.
Yeah.
I think this was just an example of the tools that you can use.
Oh, yeah.
Here's your workspaces again. I don't know how. Anyway, it's somewhere up there. I don't know how it's in both places. You're probably... Oh, my Excel.
That's your Excel library.
Yep. This is the one... Oh, when was it? Wow, is that all? It seems like it was a lot longer ago. I remember you worked up a tutorial on your XML class.
Yeah.
Well, to be fair, it was I think more you were teaching me XPath over your actual class. You obviously taught me how to use it with your class,
right.
But I was totally new to XPath, and it reminds me of the whole COM thing with web scraping. I was learning your class, but I didn't know XPath at all, and it's amazingly tweakable, but boy, it takes a while to get into it.
Yeah, it's extremely powerful, but the syntax is definitely challenging.
Yeah. And this one, if I remember right, I think it was just allowed us to go look at our YouTube videos and get metrics. It connects to the Google API, which I probably should just move it up into there.
Yeah, I don't remember working on that one, though.
That one might have been mine, because I had done some stuff, and then at one point you did. I forget why. You had a reason, and so I put it on here. But I don't think we ever did anything with it.
I don't think so.
But that's a quick rundown on projects that we've worked on. You can see, and that's it's probably like 2/3, I'd say. There's other stuff that we didn't work on in this folder that we've done together. But it's a good overview of different things we've done with it, and I agree that the amount of it's just up to you, right? AutoHotkey can do so many amazing things, and it's not limited. It's limited by your skills, not by the tool itself, or more often than not, at least.
Yeah, there's only like some timing issues. Like if you need something to be extremely fast, then AutoHotkey may not be right for you. But
or big data.
Yeah, big data. Well, you can just interface with SQL or other types of databases or data storage.
Yep. By the way, Jean, I was talking to him about his QAP tool, and I was like, hey, wouldn't it be cool if you had a way to track how often people used each shortcut and this or that? So in a couple of days, I don't know how much time he spent programming it, but he came back, he's like, hey, I actually did some work on this. Can we look at it? And he's using AutoHotkey to write to, I think it's SQLite, if I remember correctly. It's a free SQL database.
Right.
And he's connecting to writing to the database, but then he actually is using the free SQL database program to read what's going on. But it was a great example, like to your point. He's still using AutoHotkey to work with it, but he's not actually performing the queries, with it. He's using the free SQL database for that side of things, even though I know you can automate connecting to it entirely. It's just why, if you're not going to be doing the same thing over and over, and there's already a tool out there that does it. It's a decent GUI, so he's just leveraging that. But cool. Is there anything else that you think you worked on or think it'd be interesting to bring up? One I know, which it was funny because we happened upon it live when you and I were chatting about it. I'm like, hey, have I shown you my screen clipping tool? And you're like, no. And I go into it and I go to edit it, And sure enough, at the top, thank God I had actually cited it, but I was using your work you had done on the Windows Image API. Does that sound right?
Oh, the
MI? Is that what it is?
something like that, yeah.
Yeah, but it made me laugh because I'm like, special credit to Maestrith for this part, and I think there was another one from somebody else. But it made me laugh. I'm like, I didn't realize who he was when I had borrowed that. And we just happened to live. I'm like, hey, look at this cool thing I've done. But I always say it because I'm like, I just Frankenstein things together, right? I did not. The vast majority of the GDIP, is that the library?
Well, GDIP I never mess with. Criminy, I wish I could remember the name of that. It's basically the interface that allows scanners and stuff to work, or oh my gosh. Yeah, if you could show me
Learning one did that one. Well, I actually since then had removed out, I believe. Let me see. Because if I left it in, no, I don't. I'm not seeing your name. I think I removed out the in my newer version because I no longer was using what I was initially. Was it? It was part of it was you saved it, you converted a different format, and then we used it to upload to the Imager API.
Oh, it could have been that. Hard to tell.
But I should have in this folder. What in the world is this thing called? Screen clipping? Yeah, so like this version, I'll bet you it should still be in there.
Oh, my Imager uploader. Okay.
That's what it was. Okay. Yeah. I don't know why. Maybe I thought maybe it was both, but
well, the only thing that the one that I did do, I had a crop, rotate, basic, super basic image editor. It was just basically, like I said, cropping and rotating.
Oh, here. Oh, that's it. Sorry. Never mind. I'm an idiot. Yeah, it's the same one.
That's right. But yeah, it's W. Oh, that's going to drive me insane.
I want to say WMI.
That sounds right, but
No.
No, it's not WMI.
No.
I'll remember it as soon as we're done, I'm sure.
Right.
WIA, Windows Image Acquisition.
Ah, yes. Yeah.
Yeah, you can do a lot with that. You can crop, resize, rotate.
Oh, you know what? And now, see, I was misremembering. I used that when I was at work and I was getting an image offline from online, and I needed to save it in a different format and resize it. And
okay.
That's where I saw it. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a very powerful little object, and it's just really fun. And you can, like it says there, you can scanners, printers, everything. It's just an application layer that makes it easier to deal with stuff like that.
Which is another point of the whole thing. What's awesome about the vast majority of stuff you do with AutoHotkey. If you're relying on what's already in Windows, when you share it with other people, it usually works, right? They already have the tools that they need, and it keeps your file size small as well.
Right. Yeah, I wouldn't even begin to know where to start with half of what that program does between transcoding to different file formats and resizing and scaling, and it's just ridiculous what it would do and the amount of sheer programming it would take to actually do that by hand. Oh, I've also done a little bit of game scripting as well.
Like what? I don't remember.
I wrote a Tetris and a Snake.
Oh, I remember yeah. Actually, I remember both now. Okay. Your
Yeah.
Tetris, I thought, can you pull that up? Do you have that handy? That was
Give me a
it was
second.
it was beautiful.
I'll just send you the link here in a second.
Yeah, I remember I was very impressed with how it ended up looking.
Yeah, it turned out pretty good for for being
And
AutoHotkey.
yeah. And your snake one too was interesting.
Yeah, Snake was fun.
If I remember correctly, I think you also optimized it a lot compared to what I think you saw an example and you.
You know what? I don't think I have that on GitHub. I know where I can find it, but
I'm Tetrising.
well, that's good.
Slam. How do I? Oh, there we go. Rotate. Yeah. All right. Now I'm just going to play Tetris for the next 8 hours.
Oh, that's fine.
Yeah. So you're showing ahead of time like a little cheat spot of where it's going to go.
Yeah, the ghost piece at the bottom.
And what if was this one also the one that like the actual number of lines of code was? It just wasn't a lot given to me, given what you're doing.
No, it wasn't very large.
And is this the GDIP library or?
No, actually, that's using the Internet Explorer. It's basically an Internet Explorer window that I'm manipulating.
Wow. Was it what was it? Remember with Ryan, you helped with the one with the brains?
Oh, yeah.
Where the things were moved. It reminded me of Robotron, not Robotron, is what it's called. But the brains and like snakes going around and but what's the not Flash? What is it? What you used to?
Yeah, it's like Flash for the most part.
I was amazed because he had originally drawn it with, I think he was using like
Images, yeah, just static images.
yeah, and on his computer when he got to like 1,000, it was barely moving at all.
Right.
They were so slow, and then you redid it, and this was at about, I think it took us about 2 hours overall just to completely take what he had written, redesign it all from scratch, and it was really cruising around even with like 8,000. I think it was.
Yeah, it was still usable at quite a few.
But that wasn't Flash, was it? That's the, what do you call the IE window that's not an IE?
Yeah, it's just the IE control.
Isn't there another name for it though?
An Object X.
Oh yeah, that's what. Yeah,
an ActiveX object.
ActiveX object. Yeah, there you go. Yeah. And that's the stuff like to me. I don't deal with that stuff. It's blows me away.
There's Tetris. Or Snake. Pardon.
Snake.
Gotcha. You're not sharing your screen, so.
Oh. Was I sharing it earlier?
I don't think so.
Oh crap! All right. Oh well.
Yeah, just hit escape and it'll start. Up, left, right, down.
And what am I supposed to do? Hit the red?
Yeah, you hit the red dot, and then your snake grows longer as it goes.
Ah. Oh boy. All right, so that's the snake. Escape again. Oh.
You just closed the window. Yeah, I didn't.
Yep, I'm going to undo it. Now I'm going to relaunch this. And this is the... oh, wow.
Yeah, it remembers your last board state.
So here's his Tetris with the little cheat part, which makes it so much easier. Yeah.
I believe if you hit S, it drops it from wherever it is.
Yep. Uh-oh. Oh well, whatever. Yeah, very cool. And those are very well, I'd say they're better than typical AutoHotkey GUI like looking things.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, they cool stuff. Wow. And so that's 645 lines.
Yeah, compressed, of course, because I tend to put about 20 different things on the line. So
Yeah, sure. And then your Tetris is no, there's no way those are both the same.
no, completely different. I think 400 and some odd lines for Snake.
Ah, there you go. Yeah. 446. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, like you said, I know you really work hard at minimizing the number of lines and compactness.
Yeah, I'm just crazy that way.
Cool.
Kind of born out of necessity, really. It was I used to pay for my web hosting for all of my scripts, and you paid by the the kilobyte. So really
Wow.
shrunk what I did.
Neat.
So yeah, it was born out of necessity, then became habit.
Yeah. Interesting. Cool. Anything else that pops in your head you want to?
Not that I can really think of. It's just the amount of things that AutoHotkey can do is just
Yeah, it's pretty much whatever you want. And there are so many different ways to connect to programs. That's what that insurance one that we did. There's what I'd say you had like 4 or 5 different general approaches that you try to connect with them.
Pretty much.
Yeah. And then if you're using like a Windows Office program, you can connect with COM and it's so reliable.
Better.
Yeah. Same thing with Internet Object. I'm sorry, with IE, which is why I'll use IE for my web scraping, because I can programmatically connect to that. Although I've done a little bit. I think you did a little bit with the Chrome.ahk file. Is that right?
Yeah. Geek Dude created a class that dealt with at least automating part of Chrome without actually having to run, I forget the name of that DLL that you had, Selenium, without running Selenium.
Yeah. Yeah, and the syntax was, even though I don't think it's not as powerful, but boy, it's so much easier to understand and to work with.
Oh yeah, it's really handy.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, for those of you who haven't tried AutoHotkey, if you do install AutoHotkey, I would say is don't wait. Install AutoHotkey Studio as well, and set it up as your default editor, because it's what's just that the color syntax alone, the color coding to help you spot things is great. But there's so many other things, and you don't have to be an advanced user to use it, right? You just keep leveraging more and more functionality as you learn more. But even a noob can benefit from it right away.
Absolutely.
And he takes donations. You're not going to say no to money, are you?
No.
Yeah. Cool. All right. Well, thank you, Chad. It's good chatting with you. And that's it.
Well,
I'll see you around. All right. Bye.